Welcome back to another episode of Georgia Sports Nation. Got some more Braves content on the way for you guys today. And after a long hiatus, Georgia Sports Nation will return for many different reasons. There was a big break. Main one being, I really couldn't watch the games because I had Xfinity. There was that disagreement between Diamond Sports and then Bally Sports and the Braves and Xfinity, but once they got it backed, got back into watching all the games, and now I'm not categorized as I'd say a box score watcher to watch any more of the games. So we're gonna resume Georgia Sports Nation with a little bit of Braves talk here, and this season it's been a lot for the Braves. Injuries, obviously, the name of the game when you first look at this season with Ronald Acuna, Spencer Strider, Michael Harris missing over 2.5 months, Ozzie Albies still down from that freak wrist injury, Austin Riley getting hit in the hand against the Angels, a couple weeks back. Now he's going to be out. Really, it looks like for the rest of the regular season. So. And then you had Ronaldo Lopez missing a couple weeks there. You had Max Fried also missing a few weeks in the middle of the season, a couple months back. I mean, it has just been injuries for these Braves. But they are finding a way to make this divisional race and the wild card race, which they still sit in playoff position right now. They're finding it a way to make it close. Right now, the Braves sit, I believe it's 5 games out of the East behind the Phillies. And, it could have easily been 4 games. But unfortunately, the Braves let game 1 of the series against the Phillies go by the wayside. A couple late decisions from Brian Snitker, and then Grant Holmes letting up that 2-run homer. Nick Castellanos really was the downfall of the Braves in game 1. But they bounced back in game 2. Ronaldo Lopez was dealing. Ranger Suarez really started off hot in this game, 5 Ks to start the game for him. But then Orlando Arcia, who's had a major series and really a huge year against the Phillies in general, even when they came to Truist Park earlier in the campaign. And he had 2 homers. Matt Olson's swinging the bat well. So really is a good time for the Braves. So I do want to start back a little bit on this show, talking about, what's been going on with the Braves, because like I said, it has been a long time. And the Braves came into this Philly series really hot. They swept the Minnesota Twins, who were coming in playing great baseball. The Braves have won 10 of their last 13 games, and this is on the strength of Marcell Ozuna continues to do what he's doing. Shohei Ohtani has made up a lot of ground as far as the homers in the Triple Crown race. I believe he's at 43 homers. Marcell is still at I think it's 38 homers. So that might take a little bit of. That might be far-fetched to say Ozuna can get the Triple Crown with the homers, but he is still leading the National League in batting average and RBIs. So Marcell just continues to mash baseballs. Matt Olson is finally heating up after a long slumps this season. He's had his stretches here and there, especially to begin the season, and a stretch there in June with how he was swinging the bat. But overall, right now, this is the best Matt Olson has swung the bat this season. He's had an extra base hit in 8 straight games, coming off a 2-homer game in game 1 against Philly. And then against the Twins, he's just finding the gaps. And whether it's hard hit ball on the ground, in the air, getting in runs from first. You've seen so many times over the past few games. Matt Olson's extra base hits, they're scoring Travis d'Arnaud, Sean Murphy, Marcell Ozuna, Orlando Arcia, people who generally aren't the fastest runners on this team. And they're scoring all the way from first. Olson is finding the gaps, and he is putting power on the baseball. But he's been a huge contributor as to how this Braves team is winning right now. So Olson, Ozuna, Arcia has been hot. And how about the new pickups? Ramon Laureano, who, he did not endear himself to Braves fans quickly. I'll just say that. With normally a defensive plus, a great defender out there in center field. He had a couple mishaps, a couple months ago in that Mets series when he overran that ball in right field, let the game go to the Mets there. And then he's had a couple errors here and there in the outfield. But after the first couple weeks, it was a rough start. He has absolutely turned it on, making great defensive plays. A couple weeks ago at Truist Park, 2 diving catches to end the game to seal the Braves' victory. he also has just been swinging the bat really well. And a little bit of homer power here from Ramon, who isn't known as a home run hitter overall in his career. He's been doing really well in the power department. And anytime he hits a homer, it just seems like that ball travels 420 plus feet. And he's not normally a guy who's just going to hit the ball out of a ballpark like those majestic moonshots. But he's been doing it lately, and that it's been great to see. Whit Merrifield, after coming over from the Phillies, didn't get consistent playing time in Citizens Bank Park with the Phillies, and it kind of was a lost season after being an All-Star just a year ago. But with the Braves, he's kind of rounded himself into form a little bit. He's getting consistent playing time at second base now with Ozzie, and it's been Gio Urshela who the Braves picked up after the Austin Riley injury. But Whit Merrifield, he recently had a 5-hit game in Minnesota, 5 for 5, a couple doubles and 3 singles there. And it could have been 3. It could have been 3 doubles, but he did get thrown out trying to stretch a single into a double. But overall, Whit's done a great job setting the table for the lineup. Michael Harris hadn't been doing too well in the leadoff spot, and Jorge Soler, he's kind of not the greatest leadoff hitter because he's a strikeout candidate. Ordinarily, you want your leadoff hitter to set the tone, get on base, be quick, put pressure on the pitcher to begin the game, and that's what Whit Merrifield has done. He's stolen bases, he's got singles, he's getting on base, and that's what he's done throughout most of his career. So Alex Anthopoulos, especially with Whit Merrifield and Ramon Laureano, the 2 greatest pickups right now, in my opinion, for this season, as far as for the injuries and the waiver pickups. Those are the 2 best guys that I think Anthopoulos has done a great job of getting in here. And then we can't forget about Gio Urshela. Austin Riley, nationally, he doesn't get enough respect about how good his defense has been this season. And obviously, he's done for the regular season most likely, but he's been incredible defensively. Obviously, the bat, he has had a down year, but recently was in a hot stretch when he got hurt. Gio Urshela is not going to do what Austin Riley is going to do at the plate. It's just not going to happen. He's had a couple doubles, had a couple singles here and there, but really with Gio Urshela, what you're going to get is great defense. And he's flashed the leather already, a couple diving plays to his left at the hot corner. And, I think that Gio Urshela, any offense that he can provide is a boost, because when you look at what his career has done and what he means for this Braves team, you're not expecting him to hit 300, mash homers and get a ton of extra base hits. But if he can take his walks, get on base, contribute in those areas, his defense is going to be there. So that's going to be a plus for him. And then, lastly, Jorge Soler. The Braves traded for him and Luke Jackson, who, Luke Jackson's definitely struggled since he's gotten over here. A couple of games that have fallen out of the Braves' hands, that he has let up some runs out of the pen. But Soler is hitting better here than he did with the Giants. He went through that hamstring injury, and he does not look good in the field. I'll say that. The defense definitely takes a hit when he's out there, but this lineup does need power. This lineup needs better hitting. So I think you have to take that risk getting his bat in the lineup every day here. But overall, this Braves team right now, they're playing their best baseball of the season, and it's with Ronald Acuna, Spencer Strider, Austin Riley, Ozzie Albies. They're all out. They're 74-61, 13 games over 500. Now, I believe the last time they were 13 games over 500, when they said it on the stat on the radio, I think it was back in May. So this is a huge, huge thing for the Braves, and only 5 games back of the Phillies with 2 more to go. If Atlanta can win these 2 games, they put pressure on the Phillies. And it'll only be a 3-game lead in the East. But on the contrary, if they lose these next 2 games, I would say the division race is pretty much over. Now for me, overall this season, if you look at where the Braves are, what they've gone through, how many injuries they've had to face, if they get into the playoffs, I just think that's a plus for them. With the starting pitching they have of Ronaldo Lopez, Chris Sale, and Max Fried. Those really 3 guys, with Charlie Morton still there as well, and Spencer Schwellenbach with how good he's been. This starting pitching has absolutely carried this team. They've allowed 3 runs or less in I don't remember the exact number, but it's just been I think it's been 18 games maybe the starting pitching has. So it's just been absolutely incredible run for the Braves starters. And if they can get into the dance here, with that pitching, anything can happen. And you saw what happened with the Diamondbacks last season. Nobody really picked them to beat the Phillies. You see they got all the way to the World Series. Stuff can happen like that. So the Braves could be that team that surprises everybody, even though it has been a little bit rough, especially the offense at times. I remember during the months of mid-June to early July, this offense just could not score enough runs. There was so much pressure on the starting pitching, and while they performed for the most part, if they allowed up more than 3 runs, the game was pretty much over. Braves offense couldn't score. But now that's not the case. The pitching is good. The hitting is good. The situational, awareness, I think, is definitely improved. And the vibes around this team are just getting better. And they're winning. So that's all going to happen there when it comes to the vibe of the games. But I want to get specifically into this Phillies series because, like I said, this is the most important series of the year for both teams. I don't think there's much of a debate there. So as we go into game one, really I have the highlights here in the banner. Number one, I want to talk about the pitching matchup because I thought Charlie Morton pitched really well. He's definitely had a rocky start with those walks, hit by pitch, but he was able to escape a lot of base runners, leave them on base, stranded there, and he pitched to Bryce Harper really well. But for the Phillies, Christopher Sanchez was pretty good. The Braves historically have had trouble against Sanchez and Ranger Suarez. They didn't have trouble against Ranger Suarez in game 2, but Sanchez's changeup was really good in this one. The Braves just could not hit it until Orlando Arcia really started the scoring with an RBI double. He's been absolutely mashing the baseball over the past few weeks. And when he comes up, especially against the Phillies with what happened in the postseason last year, I feel like he has some type of payback, some type of revenge thing on him with this whole what happened with the media and Attaboy Harper and stuff. And the media is making that to be probably something bigger than it really is. But it's still good to see him playing well against a pitcher that really the Braves overall has struggled against. Matt Olson here didn't struggle at all, though. He hit one of the biggest, the longest homers I've seen in a long time over the green batter's eye, the mesh batter's eye in Philadelphia was his first homer. And then he also hit another homer to the right center field gap, which is, really big in Citizens Bank Park into the bullpen. He's not missing any more middle fastballs. There was a stretch here over a couple weeks ago that, teams were just throwing Matt Olson a ton of fastballs. And there would be that occasional one that was left over the middle of the plate, middle, and Olson was swinging through it. Was late on fastballs, early on breaking balls, just the timing was off. But right here, he has not been off at all. Olson just clobbered that homer 450 feet. Another one went 420. And then with the Braves leading 4-0 going into the later stages of this game, into the 6th inning, they had all the momentum. Charlie Morton was still in the mound, and he was nearing 100 pitches. He allows a walk, and then JT Realmuto, credit to him, he gets on base with a single after fighting off a ton of pitches, fouling them off, staying alive. I think it was the 8 or 9 pitch at bat, and he gets a single out of it. You got runners on first and second. Brandon Marsh coming up to the plate, 2 outs. Charlie Morton's now over 100 plus pitches. Now, if that's me, Aaron Bummer's already warming up. I'm going to bring in Aaron Bummer to face Marsh. Snitker, after the game, said that he liked Charlie's curveball against Marsh. And yes, Charlie did strike out Brandon Marsh, who, in my opinion, is the most annoying player in the Phillies. He just seems to struggle against everybody else and then just rounds into a great form whenever he faces the Braves. But it just seemed that it would have been a better matchup to bring in Bummer there. Lefty, a sinker baller, a guy that's not going to give up a lot of fly balls. And the wind was crazy in game 1. It was blowing really hard out to left center. And Marsh got it up in the air opposite field. And off the bat, it didn't really seem like it was going out. But it ended up, 4 or 5 rows deep into the stands in the left field. And once Citizens Bank Park, once the Phillies get their fans into the game with momentum, it's very hard to come back and really shut the door on them. And unfortunately, that's what happened. The next inning, Grant Holmes comes out of the pen. And after a hit, Nick Castellanos, who's really had a flair for the dramatic against the Braves lately, he's hit a lot of dagger homers, game-winning homers, and this was another one in the eighth to no, sorry, in the seventh to close it out. And the Braves ended up squandering a 4-0 lead and losing 5-4 in game one. The biggest thing about this game, though, to me, was Snitker's decision to leave Aaron Bummer in the pen and leave Charlie Morton out there for one more batter. While Charlie has had some good sequences against Marsh, the two biggest factors for me was, one, he had to work a lot to after that JT Realmuto at bat. I mentioned that he fought off 8 or 9 pitches, gets a single, and the second, Morton's already at 100+ pitches. So if you're in that situation where after a tough at bat, 100+ pitches, getting later in the game, and I just think that you need to bring in Bummer there. Now, realistically, the Braves, I forgot to mention this guy too, who's been a huge part of the Braves' success before he got injured, AJ Minter. If that was AJ Minter warming up in the pen instead of Bummer, I wonder if Snitker has a little bit more confidence to go out there and get Charlie Morton and get Minter to face Marsh. But that's something that we'll never know. And to me, that was something that really costed game one. I'm normally somebody who doesn't question Brian Snitker a lot. I know his bullpen management could be better. It definitely can. But right now, this season especially, he does not have a lot of options. Braves bullpen has squandered a lot of leads because they don't have their main guys in Minter, and Jimenez and Raisel Iglesias needs to go so much. But Dylan Lee could have been another guy that was warming up in that situation. So I just think, for the lefty-lefty matchup. So I just think that decision making from Snitker was pretty poor there, and it was a loss that it just felt like a terrible loss, even though it was a 1-run game. The game was played pretty well by both sides as far as the players on the field. But it was just such a backbreaker because you could have been looking at a 5-game deficit, 4-game. You could have gotten the deficit if you swept the Phillies to a 2-game deficit, and if they won all 4 games. And unfortunately, that was not the case. But the Braves bounced back in game 2. They got right back up, and facing Ranger Suarez, a guy who they've really struggled with in the past, who's dominated them in the playoffs, it looked like it was going to happen again. Ranger Suarez started out with 5 Ks through the first 2 innings, and it was the first 5 batters of the game. And the Braves just could not start out making contact but until late in the second inning when Orlando Arcia, that guy again, mashing a homer to left center, and then Sean Murphy pulls one to left field near the pole to go back to back. And then at that point, you're like, okay, this is kind of shaping up similar to last season, to last game. The Braves took the momentum, a couple runs on the board early. They got the crowd out of it. Let's see if they can hold it. And not only did they hold it, but they furthered their momentum and kept scoring. Orlando Arcia, another homer, 2-homer game. Olsen had 2 doubles. Ozuna had 2 hits. And overall, this was just a great offensive performance against a starter in which they've had trouble against. And they also hit Junior Marte of the Phillies out of the pen really well. But this was really a great bounce back. And for Reynaldo Lopez, he has had some excellent starts against the Phillies lately. His last one, right when he came off the injured list, 6 scoreless against the Phillies. And in this one, he goes, another performance just like it. He goes 6 innings, 1 earned run, 6 Ks, 1 walk. And then for Ranger Suarez, 4 earned runs, 5 hits in 4 innings. He's had a couple rough starts against the Braves in a row. So against the playoffs, it really seems like Ranger finds his groove against this Atlanta team. But in the regular season, he has not enjoyed the same success. So whatever the Braves find in the regular season against Suarez, they need to, if they can match up with the Phillies in the postseason at some point, they need to find that and try to recapture what they've seen in Ranger Suarez over the past couple of starts for him. But this Phillies series continues. It's like I mentioned before, it's a 4-game set. And for the Braves tonight, it's going to be another great pitching matchup. It's going to be Max Fried. It's going to be Zach Wheeler on Fox, national television, 7:15 p.m. start. And Brandon Gaudin is actually going to be broadcasting this. So it's going to be interesting to see how he is on a national broadcast where obviously, he can't be Braves heavy Braves heavy with his commentary. But John Smoltz is going to be in the booth as well, and then Ken Rosenthal on the sidelines. For Max Fried here, it's been kind of an up and down. It's been kind of an up and down year. He had those first 3 starts where it was really rough. Then he had a great stretch up until he got hurt. And since he's come back, he's had a couple of rough runs, coming off a great start his last time out. Let's see if he can continue and back that up with an even better one against these Phillies, because you really like the lefties going against the Phillies lineup here. Alec Boehm in the first game, he swung, had some discomfort with his wrist. He did not play in game 2. So that's one other righty that could be out of the lineup for Rob Thompson in game 3 tonight. You like the lefty-to-lefty matchup from Marsh, Schwarber, Harper, and Bryson Stott as well. So a lefty going up against the Phillies and an all-star lefty in Max Fried is definitely something you'd like to see. But Zach Wheeler's a tough customer for the Phillies. Ordinarily, the Braves have been a great fastball team in the past few seasons. But this season, for whatever reason, going from the best fastball hitting team last season to one of the worst this year, Wheeler really uses his fastball up in the zone to try to get a lot of swing and misses on 0-2, 1-2 counts. So the Braves are going to have a lot of discipline. Keep in mind that he's going to do that and try to lay out those high fastballs. But when Wheeler has that devastating slider too, it's going to be really tough. So another great pitching matchup in game 3. Let's see, do the Braves kind of take it to the Phillies and get a hold on the series with a chance to win it? Because if they do, they can absolutely still win the division. And then game 4, it's Spencer Schwellenbach going up against Aaron Nola. So Schwellenbach, with how good he's been in his rookie season for the Braves, low walk guy, high strikeout guy. And then Aaron Nola, who hasn't had a great year by his standards, but is still, he's still regarded as a great pitcher, even though he's probably not the ace he once was. Another great matchup there for game 4. So really, if the Braves match up with the Phillies in the playoffs, this is a playoff preview right here as far as starting pitching goes, minus Chris Sale. And obviously Chris Sale, I think the leading candidate for Cy Young in the National League. He would definitely be in that starting lineup at the Braves, face the Phillies in the playoffs. So that's something that it's gonna hopefully happen before the end of the regular season, because I would like to see Chris Sale against this Phillies lineup. Like I said, another lefty going up against Harper, going Stott, Schwarber, and Boehm being out there too. So it's really going to be interesting to see what happens in these last 2 games. But for the Braves, the amount of fight that they've had to get back in this divisional race, to overcome, they were like, I think 4 or 5 games over 500 at one point, and now back to 74 and 61, 13 games over 500. This division is not out of question. And if the Braves can get in, whether it's the divisional win, whether it's through the wild card, I think it's just amazing that this team can just overcome the amount of injuries that they've had to face this season. So that's the main thing with me for the Braves lately. And their schedule to end the season is, not it's not the greatest. I mean, they definitely still have some good teams that they need to see, but they have, after this Phillies series, they're gonna go to Toronto. Toronto's gonna come to Truist Park, Colorado, Toronto, at Washington. Then they have a 4-game series with the Dodgers, and then they go to Cincinnati. So Toronto's a decent team, even though they've struggled. Then you've got Los Angeles, Cincinnati, New York, and then 3 versus Kansas City to end the season. So the Braves definitely do have a little bit of a tough schedule here. There is a couple series with the Nationals there, with Miami too. So there's some wins on paper at least built into that schedule, but the Braves need to take care of that business, because the other teams are going to be really tough. The Royals are on a huge hot streak. Bobby Witt Jr. is just amazing to watch. So they've been on a roll. They're right at the top of the American League Central now with the Indians, or the Guardians now. So that race is going to be interesting too. But for the Braves, let's see if they can win tonight and have a chance to win this series outright on Sunday. And if they do, they have all the momentum heading down the stretch here for September. So that's going to be huge for them. But I appreciate everybody who tuned into this show. We're going to be back with more Georgia Sports Nation regularly now. And as far as the Hawks go, don't look now, but training camp is just almost a month away. You've got training camp on October 3rd, I believe it opens up for the Hawks, and media day is soon. So we'll definitely be updating you on Hawk stuff, Brave stuff. It's all going to be back here in Georgia Sports Nation. If you're not already doing so, make sure you follow me on Twitter or X at Pinwizard300, and on YouTube here I stream Georgia Sports Nation on recapping Hawks hoops. So appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Peace.